Hey everybody, it's Scotty from Scotty's Record Shop with another artist review. Actually, I'm kind of titling this a tribute. And why I'm titling this a tribute, even though the man is still alive, is because he's having some serious health issues. And I'll get into that in a minute. Again, like I usually do, I want to thank everybody for checking out my videos on YouTube. And I really do appreciate it very, very much. Okay, this is going out to person with the username, and I hope I get it right, Bushy Kev. I knew a Kevin Bushy once a long, long time ago. He's no longer with us, but I know that's not you, Kev. You're someplace better, I'm sure. But anyway, he wanted to see my Glen Campbell, and at first I thought, okay, not to bat. I like Glen Campbell, but I know probably a lot of people in the VC are like, Glen Campbell. Okay. I really urge you to look up what this man has played on. Not just his work as, a solo artist, but look at some of the records that guy did. He was a part of the Wrecking Crew, which was an LA-based group of musicians in the 60s that played on tons and tons of records. Everything from the Monkees to the Beach Boys to all kinds of stuff. He's appeared on a lot of different artists. Odds are pretty good Glen Campbell played on something that you like. He's a very, very versatile guitar player, and had a wonderful voice. He's about 76 now. At the taping of this video, he is still alive. I know people will end up watching this down the road a couple of years from now, and the odds are pretty good he won't be with us by then. He's suffering from Alzheimer's, late stage Alzheimer's. It's really, really actually sad. In a way, this could be kind of a tribute or a dedication to anybody who's suffering or has dealt with people with Alzheimer's or any of the related diseases. It's a terrible thing. I work in nursing and I see it a lot, and it's just heartbreaking to see a family member go in, having a kid go in to talk to his parents, and the parent doesn't even know who you are. After all your life, they forget who you are. That's just devastating for you and for them. So I kind of dedicate this, I guess, to all of you, because we've all been through it in one form or another. But this is about Glen Campbell. I don't have everything. By no means do I have everything that he did. I probably got a stack of maybe 20 albums here, and you think, wow, that's a lot of records. But between 1968 and 1970, he released 14 albums. I'm not kidding, 14 albums in that period of time. And many of them were very good overall for what they were. He's covered a lot of different types of music. So we're going to go back and just show you what I have. I'm not going to take each album out. Sometimes I do that on these reviews. There's not a lot on the inside of these things to show you. I mean, these are primarily all original pressings and stuff, but there's so much to get through. I want to just deal with it. So the first album I have by him is the astonishing 12-string guitar of Glen Campbell. This was a 1964 album from Glen, before he was a hit, before he was a superstar. It's a good album for what it was, for the style of music, that it was. These albums, none of these Glen Campbell albums, for the most part, are very easy and inexpensive to find, so not too difficult. Gonna jump around a little bit. That was not his first album. His first album was actually 1962. Burning Bridges. This was 1967, I believe. Burning Bridges LP. Mr. Campbell. Let me get it all in view here. I got problem. I don't know what's going on with my. All right, good enough. He starts having hit singles in 1967, and let me see what this one is. Yeah, Gentle on My Mind. This was the next album that came out. Still quite a young man in this one. Again, these are all on Capitol. Original pressings of this. I believe these are all stereo pressings. Nothing amazing about them. They're not bad albums though. probably my favorite Glen Campbell song. I don't know if it's my favorite Glen Campbell album, but it's definitely a decent album, for sure. A good example of what he sounded like in the 60s, 1968, and Wichita Lineman, my favorite Glen Campbell song, like I said. This is an original pressing in stereo on the Capitol label. This is a weird Pickwick International thing. Pickwick shows up every once in a while. They were like a Rhino or something, or a Ryko disc of today. You know, they issued things that weren't currently available at the time. This was one of these earlier recordings from Glen. It came out in '68, I believe. An interesting album. As usual, atypical, you know, Pickwick, not the best sounding, not the best pressing, but anyway, okay. He did a few albums. He did one with as duets. He did a handful of them. One of them I don't have, from '71, with Anne Murray, which was very country-ish. This was a decent album, though, from Bobby Gentry and Glen Campbell. Back side of that. Again, this was '68, '69-ish. By the time I get to Phoenix, the next album I have from him, there's your backside to that. This is a really good album. I like this. 1969, I believe this came out. I'll show you the gate on this as well, because it's a gatefold. I'll pull it out. Glen Campbell Live. One of two albums that I have that are live from him. You know what? I'm not sure what pressing this is, so we'll take a look together and see what era this is. Yeah, this is the right era. This was '69-ish or so. It's that wasn't around very long. That green Capitol pressing. Capitol was playing around with the basic format of this, but different colors. There you go. Different colors for the background. There was some red. I believe there was some, may have been at least red and the green from '69, '70, '71, that era. So this would be an original pressing of this. And this is a good record, Glen Campbell Live. At this particular point in time, by 1970, he had a television show as well. The Good Time Hour, I believe it was called. He had different guests and stuff, and I mean, the guy was incredibly busy by this point in time. Like I said, 14 albums in 3 years. Come on. Galveston, another great song by him. It was like they were recording hit singles and they were just tagging albums on. But don't let that get you down, because honestly, these albums are not that bad. You know, if you like the song, if you're old enough to remember the song Galveston, you'll like this album, because it's all basically, that's the way it is. Same thing with Wichita Lineman, stuff like that. Okay. Oh Happy Day, 1970. This is a religious album. He's put out a few religious albums. Oh, by the way, in 1969, way up there, I didn't pull it out because I have all my Christmas albums up there. And I showed that on a Christmas video from last year, a Glen Campbell Christmas LP that came out in '69. I didn't pull that one, but very plain cover. Oh Happy Day was a big hit for the Edward Hawkins singers in 1969. They also sang on Melanie's Candle in the Wind, or Candle in the Rain single in 1970, but Glen Campbell does a really nice version of Oh Happy Day on here. But this is a bunch of stuff that is very, it's a Christian album. I mean, it is what it is, you know. It's a good record, though, for what it is. We're going to skip, this is a big gap, from 70 to 73. This is not a religious album, although it's funny because you'd think from the name that it would be. The album's called I Knew Jesus Before He Was a Superstar. It's the title track, which was a single in '73. It did okay. It's actually a pretty good song. It's kind of slamming the whole Jesus Christ Superstar, God spell era where, you know, Jesus got very hot musically, I guess. That's sacrilegious as it is, but it is. But he was kind of like stating, hey, you know what, I was digging it before you guys even knew it, you know. And this is a pretty good album, actually. But it's not a Christian album. Like I said, it's not a gospel. An interesting album from him. Okay. From 71-ish to 74, through 74, he was putting out albums. They were very good albums. I don't have them, most of them, but again, they're easy to find. Whenever I see them, I pick them up. But he wasn't commercially all that successful. That changed in 1975. I heard a rumor that his wife at the time said, "You better not record this song, or I'll leave you." I don't know if that's a true story or not. From what I understand, he did record the song, and he did get a divorce around the same time. I don't, that's, you know. And he got a minor hit out of this one. Rhine-stone Cowboy, 1975. Commercially, it's probably his peak right here. And this is not for those people who are like into like oh, what's the term? I hate terms. I hate labels, but outlaw country. That's the thing everybody's into all of a sudden, for whatever reason. I mean, it's good, but whatever. I mean, I was digging that stuff in the 70s, but anyway, this is not an outlaw country album. This is kind of a poppy country album, you know, but it's still good for what it was. And great musicianship on the album, great production. You know, it's a classic mid-70s album from Glen Campbell. Okay, another album that came out that I'm looking for is an album called Bloodlines, which is a great album. Same basic idea, maybe not quite as country, more poppy, but very well produced. I don't have that one yet. At least I don't have it on vinyl. Southern Nights was another huge album for him. Again, kind of a country pop flavored LP, but a decent record nevertheless. Okay. All these, by the way, all of these, with the exception of that one Pickwick album, all these are on Capitol. This next one I'll pull out for you. Another Glen Campbell live album. This was 1978-ish, I believe. Let's see here. This is. I'll open this up for you. Here's the inner sleeve of that, and here's the outer sleeve of that album. And by this point in time, we'd gone from that orange Capitol to, you guys all know what that orange and tan label looks like, to this one, which was the late 70s, early 80s Capitol label. This was 78, I believe this was, I said, yeah. Another good Glen Campbell live album. It's kind of a more of a career-spanning album, you know. And at this point in time, Glen Campbell's hits kind of dwindled out. You know, he wasn't as commercially viable again as he had been. So I only have one other studio, or not necessarily studio, but original Glen Campbell album, and it came out in the 80s. Actually, a friend of mine gave me this. I had almost forgotten about this. I had a box of albums that somebody's given me, and I'm like going through it, going, oh, I wonder what I'm going to keep and what I'm not going to keep. And oh yeah, there's Glen Campbell album in here. And this one is It's Just a Matter of Time, and I'm trying to think of the label that he was on at this particular point in time. He wasn't on Capitol, so I'll show you the label on this one. But nevertheless, I'll be honest with you, I haven't played this album yet. Needs to be cleaned. I'm kind of curious. I have a feeling it's going to be much more country, 80s country. But okay, let's do here. Put this back in. A couple more, and then I'll let you guys be. Okay, this is a Capitol issue, I believe. Yep, of Glen Campbell's. What is this? The greatest hits or best of? The best of Glen Campbell. I have a few best ofs. It's a good place to start. There's some good compilations on CD. If you want to just get an overview of who Glen Campbell is. You know, it's really weird. I'll say something else about his recordings. He never... his playing on record, when you go back to the earliest records, when he was doing kind of bluegrassy type of stuff, 12-string work, you can hear his playing much better on that than on some of these hit records. I'm not saying that they're bad by any stretch, but the man was a wonderful player. This is a collection from the early 70s. Glen Campbell collection of stuff. I'll show you just for the heck of it. I think, say, yeah, it's on that same, that capital label. So, that, would be a good place to start. I'm jumping all over the place, I know, but as a best of, there's some wonderful compilations from him. Fairly inexpensive, and his albums are really, really easy to find. I'll get that in later. Don't want to waste your time. A couple more. The complete Glen Campbell. I mean, it's one of these 20-song collections put out in the 80s. It's a good collection, but you know how it is when you get these 20 songs on one piece of vinyl, it turns into like a K-Tel album, and the fidelity on it isn't quite as good, and they wear fairly quickly. One more, just because I like throwing these, these things. This is cheesy all the way around. This is so 70s. The Glen Campbell collection, as seen on TV. Ooh. I can pick on this, the cover-wise and everything, but the album itself is actually a pretty good album. It's got a fairly decent collection. Again, 20 songs on one album. You're talking about not the best fidelity. Okay, so again, Bushy Kev, I hope that I got that right for your username. I hope you enjoyed this. And anybody else, I encourage you to, especially if you're not into this type of music, to just kind of check it out, I hope anyway that you've enjoyed this video, my little tribute to Glen Campbell, and I guess to everybody who suffers, who has been affected by Alzheimer's and all those related diseases too. It kind of goes out to all you guys. Okay, all right. Until next time, everybody. Peace and love.